So the movie opens with Po, a giant panda who works in his dad's noodle shop, having the most elaborate dream sequence about himself. He's a legendary kung fu warrior, feared across the land, fighting armies of villains in a glorious red and orange animated fantasy, surrounded by allies, bowing crowds, the whole thing. He's basically narrating his own legend. And then he wakes up in a noodle shop. Po's dad, Mr. Ping, a goose, which we're just going to accept, runs a noodle restaurant in the Valley of Peace, and Po is late for work again. Mr. Ping is bursting to tell Po something important. He's almost ready to learn the secret ingredient of the family's famous secret ingredient soup. He builds this up like it's the meaning of life with a whole lineage speech about fathers passing it to sons. Po, meanwhile, is serving noodles and clearly not paying full attention because his mind is elsewhere, specifically on Kung Fu. Up at the Jade Palace, Master Shifu, a small but intensely serious red panda who runs the Kung Fu school, is summoned by his mentor, the ancient tortoise Master Oogway. Oogway drops a bombshell. He's had a vision that Tai Lung, a snow leopard and Shifu's former student who's been rotting in prison for 20 years, is going to escape. Shifu immediately wants to fortify the prison and prepare for war. Oogway, being Oogway, suggests the real answer is finding the Dragon Warrior, the prophesied hero worthy of reading the Dragon Scroll, an artifact said to grant limitless kung fu power. Shifu is skeptical but sends a warning to the prison anyway and announces a tournament to determine which of his 5 elite students, the Furious 5, will be named Dragon Warrior. News of the tournament reaches Po at the restaurant and he completely loses his mind with excitement. He desperately wants to go watch the Furious 5 compete, but Mr. Ping needs him at the shop. Mr. Ping, ever the optimist, suggests Po could sell bean buns at the arena. That's his compromise. Po makes a run for it with a cart full of food, only to arrive at the Jade Palace steps to find the gates already shut and the ceremony underway. He tries everything to get in, climbing, bribing, begging. Inside, the 5 are performing for a massive crowd. Pig drummers, rabbit spectators, the full ceremony. Tigress, monkey, crane, viper, and mantis cycle through impressive demonstrations. Po, meanwhile, finds a tiny peephole in the door and watches like a complete fanboy. When that fails, he tries launching himself over the wall using fireworks strapped to a chair. This goes about as well as you'd expect. He flies upward, the fireworks explode, and he comes crashing straight down into the arena and lands directly in front of Master Oogway right in the middle of the ceremony. The 5 stare, Shifu stares, everyone stares. And then Oogway, calm as ever, points a wrinkled finger at this sweaty, singed panda who just fell out of the sky and declares him the Dragon Warrior. Po gets hoisted onto a ceremonial platform while everyone around him looks like they're having a medical episode. Shifu is mortified. The 5 are insulted. And Po is just thrilled. Meanwhile, far away in a snowy mountain fortress, the prison holding Tai Lung receives Shifu's warning. The warden, a nervous bird named Zheng, arrives to double the security. The prison is an engineering marvel, 1,000 guards, elaborate chains, crossbows everywhere, all built to contain one prisoner chained in a pit at the bottom of a deep shaft. Tai Lung, a massive muscle-bound snow leopard, has been immobilized for 2 decades. Zheng nervously tells him the security is being increased. Tai Lung uses this information to escape. He snaps his chains, tears through 1,000 guards, and blasts through the entire fortress, leaving absolute devastation in his wake. Zheng barely survives to deliver the news. Tai Lung is free. Back in the valley, Po is paraded around as Dragon Warrior while being absolutely miserable about it because Shifu has made it crystal clear he thinks this is a disaster. Shifu takes Po to the Sacred Hall of Warriors where Po immediately starts fangirling over every artifact and relic. He's bouncing off walls, touching things he shouldn't, until Shifu arrives and makes clear this is not a museum tour, it is a test, and Po fails spectacularly. Shifu tells Po flat out that he will never be the Dragon Warrior and that there's no scenario where a panda like him learns Kung Fu. He then demonstrates the Wuxi finger hold on Po's finger as punctuation because Shifu does not do gentle. The next morning, training begins and it is immediately catastrophic. Shifu has Po attempt basic exercises with the 5. The 5 watch with thinly veiled contempt as Po tries and fails at essentially everything. He gets pulverized by the training equipment, takes hits that should hospitalize a normal person, and keeps getting back up mostly because he's too padded to stay down. That night, the 5 discuss whether he'll quit or get himself killed. Po, dejected and alone in a corridor, runs into Crane, who is kind enough to not be openly cruel. They share a quiet moment, and Po starts to wonder if he actually belongs here at all. Then he runs into Tigress, who is not kind. She tells him directly that his presence here is an insult to real Kung Fu, to the 5, and to the legacy of the Dragon Warrior. It's a rough night. Oogway finds Po sitting alone in the Peachtree Garden and gives him the pep talk of a lifetime. Slow down, stay present, the past is history, the future is a mystery, but right now is a gift, and Po actually listens. He goes back, he stays, But then Zheng arrives with the news about Tai Lung's escape, and Shifu immediately brings it to Oogway. Shifu wants to act, wants to fight, wants to do something. Oogway instead tells Shifu to believe in Po, genuinely believe, and name Shifu his successor. Then, under the peach tree, surrounded by drifting blossoms, Oogway ascends to the spirit realm, just dissolves into petals, and Shifu is left alone with the responsibility of the world and a panda who can't do a split. Over time, something shifts. Po's resilience and genuine enthusiasm slowly win over the five. They eat together, swap stories. Tigress remains skeptical, but the others warm up. Tigress eventually tells Po about Tai Lung's history, how Shifu found him as a cub, raised him, trained him, and loved him like a son. How Tai Lung wanted the Dragon Scroll and was denied by Oogway, who saw darkness in him. How Tai Lung then went on a rampage through the valley, and how Shifu was the one who had to stop him, the student he'd raised. It explains a lot about why Shifu is the way he is. Shifu brings the news of Tai Lung's escape to Po and the five, and tells them Po is the only hope. Po is understandably terrified, and Shifu admits to his enormous discomfort that he has no idea how to train Po into a warrior. Po tries to leave. Shifu stops him, not with cruelty this time, but with something closer to honesty. Po pushes back hard, tells Shifu that all the dismissal and insults hurt, but nothing will change who he is. Meanwhile, the five don't wait. Tigress leads them out at night to intercept Tai Lung themselves. They find him on a rope bridge over a misty ravine, and the fight is extraordinary. Tigress gets thrown, the bridge collapses, Tai Lung toys with all five of them simultaneously and uses his nerve strike technique to paralyze them one by one. They all go down. He lets them live specifically to send a message. Back at the palace, Shifu makes a discovery. Po has gotten into the food stores and eaten half of them. But rather than being angry, Shifu watches. When there's food involved, Po moves with remarkable speed, balance, and coordination. He's been physically capable all along, he just needed the right motivation. So Shifu takes Po to a remote mountain valley and trains him using food. Dumplings dangled on bamboo poles, bowls of noodles as prizes, an entire kung fu curriculum built around snacks. And it works. The training montage that follows is one of genuine transformation. Po learns, improves, and begins to move like a warrior. Shifu uses chopsticks to teach him precision, uses the landscape to teach him power, and Po matches him move for move by the end. When the battered five return to the palace, Shifu sees them and makes his decision. Po is ready. He takes Po to the Dragon Scroll, the golden cylinder at the heart of the Jade Palace. With great ceremony, Po opens it. Everyone waits. The scroll is blank, just a reflective golden surface. There is no secret. There is no power. It's nothing. Shifu, crushed, tells Po and the five to evacuate the valley while he faces Tai Lung alone to buy time. The group splits. Po walks down the mountain steps defeated. He finds Mr. Ping in the evacuating crowd, and his dad, seeing his son broken, does something extraordinary. He reveals the secret of the secret ingredient soup. There is no secret ingredient. You just believe it's special, and that belief is what makes it so. Po stares at the blank scroll again, sees his own reflection, and it clicks. He turns around and runs back up toward the valley. Just in time, because Tai Lung has arrived and is tearing through the village and has already found Shifu in the palace. Shifu faces Tai Lung alone in the Great Hall, and their fight is brutal and deeply personal. Master versus student, surrogate father versus surrogate son. Shifu holds his own for a while, but Tai Lung is stronger and angrier and eventually slams Shifu into the ground, demanding the Dragon Scroll. Po appears in the doorway of the ruined palace. He walks in with a calmness that surprises even Tai Lung. He shows Tai Lung the scroll, and Tai Lung snatches it immediately, opens it, sees his own reflection, and completely fails to understand it. He's furious. He nerve strikes Po with everything he has. Po just stands there. The fat absorbs it. Tai Lung stares. Po shrugs. The fight that follows is sprawling and chaotic. Through the palace courtyard, through bamboo groves, across rooftops, down through the village, grappling in the dirt. Po uses every trick Shifu taught him, gradually taking control of the fight. At one point, there's a massive explosion in the middle of the village square. Tai Lung is baffled that any of this is happening. The villagers stop fleeing and watch. Mr. Ping watches. Everyone watches. And then Po gets Tai Lung into a hold, grabs his finger, and performs the Wuxi finger hold, a technique he apparently taught himself by eavesdropping on Shifu. A golden shockwave pulses out across the entire valley. Tai Lung is gone, vanquished, just like that. Po finds Shifu lying broken in the ruins of the palace and cradles him terrified. But Shifu smiles genuinely for the first time in the movie, tells Po he's not dying, he just wants to rest. They lie together on the temple floor at peace. Shifu asks if Po wants to get something to eat. Po says yes. The valley is safe, the Dragon Warrior is real, and somewhere out there, Oogway is very smug about the whole thing.